So what we did last time was general introduction to Power BI, right? Anybody remind us the topics we cover or to understand Power BI? How would you describe this this data analytics tool software? So very quickly, without wasting our time, know that we are only waiting for Mr. Prosper. You have not got to your last notes. So let me just help us. Or do you have anything to say? Okay, so generally we define Power BI to be Microsoft's Office application, right? Developed for data analytics. We also pointed out some areas where this program is best application for data analytics, where we identify the strengths of this application. Told us that when it comes to data visualization, Power BI has a lot of data visualizations that can be used to present insights derived from given data sets. And I explained to us that there is a section called visualization where you have most of these models which can be used to present our data assembled. Then we'll also talk about Power BI interface, the windows, where I took my time to explain each of the sections and their primary responsibilities, right? We started identifying them from the taskbar down to the home, the inserts, or the ribbon section. We also talk about the three different views, where we have the report view, the data view, and the model view. We also explained that there is a section called the data pane. Let me just quickly go in there so that I can be showing us some of these things. So I told us that the whole of this section represents your data what? Pane, which is a segment dedicated to display all the data you have called into the Power BI for analysis. And I also said we have this section, which is the visualization section, where you have different models that can be used to mold your insights. Then I said this area where you have the dotted line, what did I describe it? The whole of this section, I said this is our dashboard, right? Where we are going to use different visualization to present our reports. Then I said at the end of it, your report should be dynamic and also interactive. For a report to be interactive, it means that report A communicates with what? Report B. Now, for a report to be dynamic, it means that the values you have in various models which must have been used to present your insights are not fixed. They can change based on how you control them with the slicer. That's the meaning of what? Dynamic. Now, I also talk about this view. Remember, talk about this view. I don't know if it was your class where I explain all this view. That's why I'm recapping so that I will not skip anything. But the other class is almost, they are only ahead of you with one class. So at times I'm thinking that it's your class. But I believe I have explained this view. Okay, so if I have not, I should be able to cover that in this section. Now, another thing, again, we talk about, I showed us how you can actually switch your view, your report view from laptop view to what? Mobile view. And I also taught us how to create different what? Pages, which can act as your dashboard. Because as you can see, the whole of this place, it might be too small due to the numbers of what reports you want to present. So you are expected to what? To create what? Another what? Dashboard. So depending on the number of questions you want to answer. So it's not compulsory you compress everything inside what? One page dashboard. Okay, so that will now properly take us to today's section. So what we are going to look at, I'm just going to talk about two different topics depending on the time. Now, but I'm starting with how do we load what? CSV data into a Power BI data pane for analysis. And then we'll also look at how to load Excel. Remember from Python, by now you should have known that CSV file and Excel file, they are two different formats, right? So in Power BI, you have different ways of loading them. The way you load your CSV is different from the way you load your Excel. Now, why are we focusing on just these two formats? Because these are the most used what? Data formats. So most of the data you'll be given to analyze will either be in CSV or in Excel formats. Now, I also mentioned in that class that one of the advantage of using Power BI is that through Power BI, we can access multiple what? Data what? Sources, unlike other programs that are limited. So the first thing we need to know is for us to have an idea of where our data is what? Kept within our system before we can know where exactly we are connected to. So I will just switch off from the interface and go to desktop just to identify where my data are located. So on my desktop, let me try and confirm that. So which means that as a data analyst, you must have what? Gather your data, or you must have been given data you want to call or analyze with Power BI. So going to desktop, I have most of my file in that folder. So I'm looking for a folder with all my data sets. I think I have it here as saw it now, the raw data, something like that. Raw data. Yeah, depending on where you save it, you can actually call it from any of your system-based storage. Now, so this is where I have my file. So let me just open it to have an idea of the file. Now, there's something I want to bring to our notice. I believe we are aware of it, but let me still highlight it here because it's very important you understand the icon that represents each of these file formats. When, both CSV and Excel have the same what icon, Excel icon. But there is something that allows us to differentiate XLSS, which is pure what? Worksheet what? File from a comma delimited what? Or a comma separated value, which is the CSV. Now, CSV are the ones that will carry what? A on the icon. How many of us know that before now? I believe you understand that good. So if I ask us now, I know you are not seeing it very well. So let me just do that. So my head here is a CSV. My NIT project Clean 23 is not a CSV. It's not what? A CSV. That is pure Excel data. So now I have identified where I have my data, which is my first step. So once I have done that, then I have to go back to my Power BI. So if we are writing our step, let's have an introduction to what we want to do quickly. Loading data into Power BI dashboard. That is the main topic. So write this brief note. Loading data into Power BI. Loading data into Power BI. If you are writing. Loading data into Power BI is a crucial step in creating interactive and insightful dashboards. Loading data into Power BI is a crucial step in creating interactive and insightful dashboards. So what are the steps involved for you to achieve that? Let's just group, let's summarize the steps. Step, no, to connect or connecting to data source. 1, click on get data. So I will just, let me also be following it, and I will make sure that I'm not too fast so that we can observe it. So I said connecting to data sources. The first step is what? Click on get data. Click on get data. Okay, so just make sure that you observe should operate now. So I'll give us time to implement it so that we can be on the same page. So this is the tab. So I'll click on it. That is the first step. Anytime you want to load data, I said nobody should click. Anytime you want to load data into this application, you have to go through what? Get data as the main channel. Now, the next step is choose your data source. I'm just giving us a summary of the steps before I proceed with their implementation. Choose your data source. So what is data source? That is what? The domain you are trying to reach due to the type of data. Now, like I told us, we are looking at how to load 2 different data formats. One is CSV, right? And one is what? Excel. So I'm starting with CSV. So our next step is, you can see this is where I am observing that second step that says what? Choose data what? Source. I know that the data I want to load here is a CSV. That is the reason why you must acknowledge, you must know the type of data. Because if you come here and choose the wrong directory, now you will see what will happen now. I click on, remember that folder. When I was in that folder the other time, you were seeing both Excel and what? CSV, right? Now, because we selected our CSV data source, you will see what will happen now. So I'll go to desktop. And then on desktop, I open this folder or document. And then I located raw data. So let's keep going together. I think I'll pass that. This is it. Now, if I open here now, I want you to look at what we were seeing the other time. How many of them are you seeing now? Why are we seeing only this? Because we are connecting with what? CSV as what? Our data source. So any other format outside folder that is here will disappear. So that function, that link that you follow, only recognize what? CSV. So now I will select my CSV. That is why you must know the different words between CSV file and Excel file. Now I will click on open. Now, the moment you select open, what the application will do is to start what? Connecting, locating that domain. So let's keep watching. That is why I said nobody should operate, so that we can observe the process together. So it's coming up. You will see a kind of notification when it eventually, you can see it now, that what? Connects depending on the speed. And by the time we have successfully loaded the data, now this is the preview So anytime you are trying to load data into Power BI, it's going to first of all what bring you here. So what does this interface mean? This is where you take a look at what the data you want to what load into the dashboard. Now, the reason is that if you check here, you see what 3 buttons, right? One says load. The other one says transform what data, which means what data cleaning. The third one say what? I don't want to go again. This is not the data I want to what? Load. I made a mistake. Please take it off. Now, sir, which option should I click? You can't click on load at this point until you have what? Glance through your what? Your data. Do a kind of confirmation here. Check through the data. Even though now, while you are doing this, you are actually looking for errors. Because once you discover that there are errors like NaN, which means what? Missing value, or null, which also means what? Missing value. You don't load once you find that. You redirect it to what? Power BI component, which is called Power Query. I mentioned it the other time. That is the engine that's in charge of loading data from different sources and also what? Cleaning them up, preparing them before you will eventually what? Load them into your data pane for analysis. So now we will assume, because I don't want to distract the topic, once I'm done with this topic, the next topic will be data cleaning. That is where I will now what? Spend time on this. So right now we are just focusing on what? We are just focusing on what? Loading CSV and what? Excel what? Data set into Power BI. So let me just focus on that. So at this point, I assume that everything is what? Okay, so I'll click on what? Load. Now I want you to keep observing. I'll come back to the summary of the step. So once you have proceeded to the loading, then you will give it some time. So the number of minutes it will take depends on what? How fast your computer is. So you will see a kind of progress notification that what? Something is going on, right? And this place have already started what? Initializing. Something is happening here, which means that what? There is a connection that is established. There is a contact that is established between this pin and what? A particular what? Channel or domain. So let's keep waiting. When it's finished loading, it will give us to tell us the total numbers of record and the volume of space they are occupying in the current what? Storage. So we keep waiting. So this is the report. What did you see there? How many records do you have in this data set? You did not observe it on time. So it will just proceed once it gives you some time. 55,000 plus, right? Good. And that is occupying 7.5 megabytes space. So finally, you have your what? Your data here. Now, this is your data pane. Like I said earlier on, this section only allows you to preview the headers or in the data set you loaded. You can't see the values, the record. That is the reason why I was asking if I've explained here. Now, the reason why you are not seeing the value, because you are in this view, which says what? Report what? View. So when you are in report view, which is your dashboard what? View. Are you with me? You cannot what? View the value. Please allow me to click this. So, like I was saying, once you have successfully loaded your data, you can only view the what? The features or the headers in your data pane section. Now, that is where we will not talk about different data view or different what? Views. Now, you need to understand this view. Remember, I said something the other time that there are 3 components. There are 3 pillars that makes up this application, which you must understand. The first one is Power Query. That is the one that's in charge of what? Cleaning, loading data from different what? Gateways. Then the second one is the Power View. So the Power View is the one in charge of displaying your data.
Are you with me? So I said the Power View components is a feature in Power BI that allows you to create interactive and visual reports. Let me come again. The Power View as one of the components of Power BI, or the main component of Power BI, is a feature that allows you to create interactive. Yes, of course, before I explain it practically. Yes, it's a note. You can leave. We have ended the steps now. I've summarized the 3 steps, right? The first step was what? Second one is what? And then that is all. You load. The last one is what? Click on load. Then you end that particular steps. Then you start another one now. This one should be like a subtopic, which is a Power BI was major components. And I'm starting with the Power View. Let me put everything in proper context. So I said the Power BI view is a feature that allows you to create. It's a feature that allows you to create interactive and visual reports. That allows you to create what? Interactive and visual reports. So let's quickly look at the examples categorically. So this is the first one, you write example of what? Or element of Power BI view. 1, we have the report view. We have what? The report view. Now, this is the report view. So this particular one is the one that allows you to create what? The interactive and visual reports that I talk about in that definition. This is it. And that is the one that has been programmed as what? Defaults. Are you with me? So once you launch the application, that you are already on which type of view? Power view. Report view, which is the one that allows you to view your interactive what? Dashboard. So the next one is table view. We are still under what? The component or the element of Power View. So the table view allows you to view your data in column and rows. It allows you to view your data in column and rows. Just like a tabular what? Format. Then note, always use this view to study your data in order to draft analysis question. Always use this view to study your data in order to draft your analysis question. In order to draft your analysis questions. The one I'm just explaining now, which is what? Tabular what? View. You know, the report view does not allow you to view values, right? The report view can only view what? The headings in that data set that you loaded. So if you now want to view the values, now look up. You will agree with me that you cannot draft any analysis question with this, because you can't even access the type of value under each of these what? Presented headings. So now once you click on the data itself, you now click on what? The table. I want us to pay attention. If you can be fast, you can select, but I would like us to focus so that we can understand it. So you can see this is how Excel was presented or was presenting what? This is how Excel presented the values or the data set, right? So with this view now, you can now, with this view, you can actually study your data better, right? You can now begin to draft questions like, you might be asked to what? To summarize. I'm looking at where I have integer or floating numbers. You can be asked to summarize what? Billing amounts based on what? The type of what? Hospitals. So this is not report view. This view does not view your interactive dashboard. This is just what? The data view. So I can now go back to what? My report view. So I believe that is clear now, right? So the third one, yes, I'll pass there. I said, always use this view to study your data in order to draft analysis what? Questions. So the third one, which is a model view. Model view. Model view. Model what? View. The model view is used to view the relationship between one data set and the other. It's used to view the relationship between one data set and the other. Note, this view measures the cardinality. This view measures the cardinality, in brackets, we write what? Degree of relationship. That's what we call what? Cardinality. This view measures the cardinality, brackets, the degree of relationship between one data set and the other, or the degree of relationship between one data set attributes and the other. Now, when we say attributes here, what about what the headings in the various what? Data sets. So what could be the possible cardinality? So let's look at different types of what? Data relationship or data cardinality. We have one-to-many cardinality. One-to-many cardinality. That is what? 1 ratio what? M. Under what? Types of what? Cardinality. Don't forget what I said is what? Cardinality. I said what? The degree of what? Relationship between one data set and what? The other. Because the function of this view is to do what? Is to tell us whether what? Data A is related, whether there is an attribute in data A that is common in what? Data B. So by the time we load in the Excel data here now, then we'll now have what? 2 different what? Data sets. Now we cannot come back and check for cardinality. So, but let me just explain it theoretically so that you know what it means. Let's look at let's look at business data. We are all business people. In business data, you will have what we call sales inventory, right? And then you also have what we call what? Stock what? Inventory. Stock inventory is a data system that captures information about what? The products you stock, you receive from your vendors, right? Now, you will agree with me that in that data system, there will be a column called what? Product name, right? There will be a column called what? Product ID, right? Now, let's go to the what? To the sales inventory. Sales inventory is a data system that tracks the outgoing products, the products you have sold to the customer, right? You will also agree with me that in that data system, there will be a column called what? Product name. but you know that the same name of column, but different objective. So which means if you load those two data here now, there'll be what? Cardinality, there'll be what? Relationship. So data A will automatically detect that what? I have a similar what? Header in data what? P. Powerbi will what? We show you a kind of what? An arrow that is connecting from that data A to what? Data B. So once you see that arrow, you know that what? There is what? Cardinality. There is relationship between one data set and what? The other. And I said that we are looking at what? When we say types of data cardinalities, we are talking about what? The possible relationship, how close it could be. One is what? One to what? Many what? Cardinality. 1 colon what? M. Now, what does that mean? Let me give us an example. In a company or in an organization, one car can be assigned to what? Many staffs. What kind of cardinality is that? One car assigned to what? Many staff. That is what? One to many. Which means that what? Many staffs can use that what? Car. Then, in another scenario, there can be what? One car assigned to what? One staff. That is what? 1 to 1. That is the second type of what? Cardinality now. 1 to 1. Is what? 1 colon what? 1 ratio. So what we are saying is this. Let me explain something here, because if we go to data processing now, which is this subject that they offer in secondary school, data processing. Good. There you will see the explanation of what's the theoretical aspect of what I'm talking about. But because this is IT, I just want to give us a picture of it. Now, this could be customer what? Data. From this customer data now, I can have what? I can have customer what? ID, right? From this customer data, I can have what? Customer what? Name, right? From here, I can have customer what? I can say, okay, maybe gender. From this same customer data, I can have states or country, right? I can have country. I can have country, and so on, right? Now, the whole of this, if I want to model it as a data expert, it becomes a table. Now, so here is what? For this. Are you with me? Why this is for what? This. Another column, another attribute. This is for what? For this. And then, of course, this is what? For this. Now, there could be maybe says what? Says data, right? So from this says data, there'll be what? Customer what? ID, right? From this same data, there could be customer name also. Now, this can also be translated to what? Another what? Table. See table as what? Data set. This is what? Data set 1. This is what? Data set 2 now, right? So now here, I'm going to have something like this. So here is what? For this. While here, let me just stop here. So what is the relationship? This. There's what? Relationship here, right? This. So once I load these two data sets, Power BI, if I switch to that what? Model view, you will see a link. You will see a connection. Now, if I click now, you see this is the first, this is the one you have there. if I've loaded, what is it called? The other data, let's say that salary now, it will be here like this. So if you have loaded like 10 different data sets, all of them will be captured here as different table. Now, once there is a relationship, you will see Power BI indicating something like this. Indicating something like this, an arrow. Now, if that arrow have two side arrow, this is what? Many to what? Many. If it have only one direction arrow, that is what? One to what? Many. I believe with that illustration, you understand what we're talking about. Okay. Now, let's quickly go back and load what? The second data, so that we can see the full expression of what we are saying. So you can do that as well, but let me take it because this is a different format. Remember, we said we are looking at what? The topic we are still expanding on is what? Loading Excel what? Sorry, CSV and Excel. We have loaded what? CSV. Now I want to take us through how to load what? Excel. We are going through the same what? Get data. But this time around, you select what? Excel workbook. So once you click on it, look up that same folder that we are in. The only data set that has been excluded is what? The what? The CSV. So the rest are what? Excel. So let me load this and then click. Say it should watch. So unable to connect. Now, when you are having this issue, it means that what? That particular data, there is error. So let me go back there. I believe that one has issue. Let me go back there and try this very one. Okay, good. This one is going. Now, there is something we notice here. When we loaded the first data set, please stay on the screen. I'll give us time. When we loaded the first data set, we are not given this kind of interface. Now, the reason why we are having this is that that particular file you are loading has different record across multiple sheets in that Excel book. So now, what Power BI is saying is that which of the sheets do you want to load? So you have the privilege of choosing. This is the report. This is probably I've done some analysis here. So let me go to what? This is where probably I will have what? The main data, because I can see what salary pay slip what? Dashboard. So this one is the insight I must have what? Derived from this. So I will click here. Once you check this, to now preview the values you have there to check whether this is exactly what you want to load. Check everything. And then finally, you now what? Proceed towards clicking on load. So let's start doing that now. Let's load that same data set. That is a salary payroll. That's data we have been working with. So let's quickly do that. Proceed. Let us proceed. Now, I have loaded the data. So I have the two data sets. We talk about collapsing and what? Expansion the other time. So if I want to view the values under what? The data I just loaded, I know where to go. I'll click on this one. So these are the what? The header. And then now let's view that model view now properly, now that we have more than one data set. So if I come back to what? To the model view now, I have the two of them. Is there any arrow? Which means that there is no connection. There is no connection. So don't be surprised when you load some set of data sets and you see arrow crossing from one to another, which means that what Power BI on its own have already calculated or scanned through the data and detected what? The cardinality. So that is, now I also mentioned the second component of Power BI. Remember where we got all this from, Power View, right? So let's go back to where we were writing the second component, which is what? Power Query, before what? The DAS. Go back to your note now. Let's write note on the Power Query, the Power Query. So what is Power Query, right? Power Query is a powerful data transformation and loading tool in Power BI. Power Query is a powerful data transformation and loading tool in Power BI. And loading tool in Power BI that allows you to connect to various data sources. That allows you to connect to various data sources. That allows you to connect to various what? Data sources. Are we together? Comma, transform and shape data. Transform and shape data. Comma, and load it into your Power BI model. And load it into your Power BI model. So let's quickly look at the key features of Power Query. Before I proceed, the key features of Power Query. So what and what this particular component is made up of. One, data connection. So if I ask us now, which of the Power BI component actually gives us access to this get data, this particular function that you click on, under which component does it fall into? Is it Power View or Power Query? Power Query, because it's, look at the definition, it's one that gives us to connect to different words, data sources. Good. Data connection, bracket. Connect to various data sources such as Excel, SQL, Server, and Azure. The key features of Power Query. One, data connection. Just to explain it briefly. I said connect, in other words, data connection, connect to various data sources such as Excel, SQL, Server, and Azure. SQL Server and Azure. So the next key feature of Power BI Query is data transformation. Data transformation. Transformation and shape data using various functions and operations. Just to explain that, data transformation, transform and shape data using various functions and operations. Using various functions and operations, such as filtering, grouping, and merging, such as filtering, grouping, and merging. So the last key feature is data loading. So always know that what there are three key features that build up what the Power Query as one of the components. Data connection, data transformation, and what? Data loading. Just to explain briefly, data loading load transformed data. That is what? Clean data. Data that assume that you must have stopped and clean before you finally what? Load it. Data loading load transform data into your Power BI models. Power BI models. Quickly, before we leave this particular component, benefit of Power Query, benefit. So you know why you must always consider it. There are a lot of benefits attached to it. Benefit of Power Query. One, data preparation. So it allows you to prepare what? The data before you start your analysis. Data preparation. Just to explain briefly, data preparation, just right, Power BI or Power Query helps prepare data for analysis by transforming and shaping it. Power BI helps prepare data for analysis by transforming and shaping it. The second benefit is data integration. Data integration. Data integration. Power Query allows you to integrate data from multiple sources. Power Query allows you to integrate data from multiple sources. From what? Multiple sources. And then the last, but not the least, data refresh. Data what? Refresh. Power BI Query enables you to refresh your data automatically. I mentioned that in our last class, that even if you update the root data you load here, once there's any further entry after you have loaded it, each time you load the data again, the new entry will be captured in all your reports. You do understand that? If, for example, now by tomorrow, this particular record that you have loaded here, they now enter more record into it. Does it require you reloading it? No. Once you run this program, you load this particular Word file, it will update what? Automatically. So what is making that possible is what? One of the components in what? Power BI what? Query. So let's look at the last one, which is what? Power BI what? DAS. Power BI what? That is what? DAX. Power BI DAS. So these are the three components. Let's recap. What are the main pillars of Power BI again? Number one is what? Power View, right? Number two is what? Power Query. Then the last one, but not the least, is what? Power BI DAS. So what does that mean, right? DAS, in bracket, data analysis expression. That's the full meaning. DAS in bracket, data analysis expression. How come you get DAS in bracket, data what? Analysis expression is a formula language. Never forget this. If not, because most of the questions of the interview, this is always mentioned. Once you fail this, it means that you don't have concrete knowledge on this. DAS, I said what? Is a formula what? Language. Let me pause here and find out if you can read, you can interpret word by word formula language. You know that there is no way you are going to explore insights from this data that will not involve what? Functions or formula, like sum, count, right? So when you say formula language, you might be asked in an interview, which language does Power BI use in creating or developing the function it uses for analysis? What's the language? DAS. Let's continue. Formula words, language used in Power BI to create calculations and measures. To create calculations and measures. To create calculations and what? Measures. Full stop. So which means that is with the Power BI DAS components or feature. That is with Power BI DAS, you can create pieces of calculators for performing different calculation or analysis. You can create pieces of calculators for performing different calculations or analysis. So that is one of the most complicated part of this program. That is the aspect that involves writing function. Different can create what? Different calculators for performing different calculations or analysis. Are we together? All right, so with this, I believe I've done justice to what? The three what? Components. Never forget these three components. Now, have we loaded our second data? If we have not, so let me hold on for you to load your second data. Quickly do that.